So we now move from the broader international frame to a specific local historical context, one that reminds us how the machinery of persecution was embedded in places and lives close to us. So it is my pleasure to invite Boris Hajdinjak, director of the Center for Jewish Cultural Heritage Synagogue Maribor, who will speak about Dr. Siegfried Seidl, representative of Adolf Eichmann in Maribor in 1941.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the invitation, thank you for the presentation. So my today's lecture is about somebody who was not well known, Dr. Siegfried Seidl, but it's quite important because he was very connected with the person who was well known, that's Adolf Eichmann. But just for the beginning, some small explanation. Synagogue Maribor is actually not a synagogue. It is a museum. Because synagogue in usual term in Jewish culture means that there is community. The last time there was a Jewish community in Maribor was in medieval time. So the building is a medieval synagogue. It was reconstructed some 30 years ago, and today is the center of Jewish cultural heritage, the only one in Slovenia. And Urbe et Orbe, this is the smallest public cultural institution in Slovenia. So when you heard that I'm director, don't expect too much because there are just two, my colleague Marietka and I. So today's lecture is, of course, not about Adolf Eichmann, but it's also about Adolf Eichmann. You probably seen that photo many times. It is, as you know, one of the most important architecture of Holocaust and one of the most important actually realizators of Holocaust. Here on that photo, it's 1942. It was not on the highest possible level of his efficiency, it was 2 years later. But he was at that time for 2 years head of the Referat 4B4 of Reichssicherheitsamt. That Roman number 4 in that RSH means this is Gestapo. Gestapo was just one of the branches of that RSH. And his rank, Obersturmfeldjäger, Lieutenant Colonel, it's quite high, but it's not the highest. Anyway, our story begins not here, 1942, but in Jerusalem. As you know, Adolf Eichmann managed to escape from Germany to Argentina, was kidnapped by the Mossad, and then was being brought to Israel. And there was, of course, a lot of press, media coverage of that process. Also in that time, Yugoslavia and Slovenia. This is one of the photos of him on the trial. And as you know, even today, that Eichmann trial in Jerusalem, it's a very important historical fact, not just for Israel, but for the, I can say, mankind. So the coverage of media and press also bring to Yugoslavia and Slovenia that one of the points for the process was also that Eichmann was guilty for the crimes against Slovenes. At that time, 15 years after the war, nobody in Slovenia knows this. And at that time, there was a museum of national liberation, which is still today in Maribor. Just the beginning of the career was that time Lojzef Penić, he was still alive. And because of that media coverage and questions about the public in Slovenia and Maribor especially, he founded documents. And this is the sample, this is the first page of his writing about that he founded in the archive of Museum of National Liberation, 38 documents with the signature of Dr. Siegfried Seidl, written to Adolf Eichmann, and just 2 documents from Eichmann to Seidl. So, and this was not published in some historical review. This was just one of the that time newspapers, or maybe to be exactly reviews. It was Seidl. It was weekly, non-existing anymore. And immediately after that, somebody which was much higher level, was Tone Ferenc. For years, he was the most important researcher of the Second World War in Slovenia. I was privileged to be his student. And one of the things which I learned from him is also other things about the Nazi occupation of Slovenia. So he founded other documents, and then he founded what Luisa Penic didn't found, that Eichmann in person was twice in Maribor. As we heard, he was actually not just a desk dictator. He was also a man of the action. So this is the reason why he was in Maribor in May 1941 and in August. The reason why he was there was, of course, not Jews, because his referat of Gestapo in that time, 1941, which actually for the transports, we know that later that means transport usually to the concentration camp for the Jews. But in this 1941 was still meaning that it was something connected with the transport for everybody who was against Nazis. So this is the reason. And after that, of course, again, very short article. It is in detail explained, not just about Eichmann's involvement, but also Dr. Siegfried's involvement in, I may say, Tone Ferenc's masterpiece, which is still today, after all the years, something which can not be passed, is the Nazistična razredovalna politika v Sloveniji. So in translation with the Nazi denationalization politics in Slovenia, something like this. The number of the pages, almost 900, means that was very detailed, and there was a lot of details. All the documents which are connected with Dr. Siegfried Seidl and Eichmann are there. Anyway, who was Dr. Siegfried Seidl? He was born in 1911 in Thun. This is not small, but it's a city not far away from Vienna. And his father was hairdresser, died during the First World War. And immediately after the war, his mother, with that time child, Dr. Siegfried Seidl, moved to Vienna. And he found some job in Bundeskanzleramt. And then he finished in Vienna, Oberrealschule. In Slovene should be something like Realna Gymnasia or something like this. That means not typical classical gymnasium, but more technical or something like this. And after that, he began with the study of law, but he finished this after 3 months because of economical reasons. In very same time, he became the member of Nazi Party in Austria. And as you may know, for Nazis it was very important the number. What the number had, because on the end was, I don't know, 8 or 9 million members of Nazi Party. If you have number like this, 300 and something, you were very early Nazi. And especially, he was not German. In Germany, he was in Austria. And he was very early be a member of SS. Also for the SS, the number of when you enter to that organization was very important. As you can see, this is very good number. So this is the reason probably you maybe notice that the old camper, the people who were Nazis before they take power, they have a special assignment on their uniforms. Anyway. After this, he go to study history in German. He finished his studies with a PhD from medieval history, interesting. And this is the reason why he was called Dr. Siegfried Seidl from 1940. After war, after he was prosecuted at the University of Vienna, took off his PhD. So after that, he was not anymore this. The most important thing for him happens then in 1939. The picture here is probably from this year. He's not in uniform yet, but he will be very soon, because at the end of 1939, he became member of Sicherheitspolizei and the Sicherheitsdienst against one of the branches of the Reichsheer. And immediately after that, just some weeks after that, in beginning of 1940, he became a member of that time still small referent of Eichmann. That's well known, Referat 4B4. And then he was sent immediately to Poland, to the city of Lodz, during wartime. It was called Litzmannstadt. It was well known because one of the most important ghettos was there. But there was also the center of big resettlement action of the Nazis. They call it großzügigste Umsiedlungsaktion. The idea was to expel people who actually live there, Poles and Jews, and settle there, mostly Volksdeutsche from different parts of Europe, like Moldavia, Bessarabia, Ukraine, or Baltic states, or something like this. They never ever managed to do this in what they were planning, but until the March 1941, so this is the last month when Dr. Siegfried was there, they managed to expel from that area of Litzmannstadt 365,000 inhabitants. Most of them, of course, Poles, but around 100,000 of them also Jews. So when he was transferred from Lodz to Maribor, he was quite experienced. Even the numbers in Slovenia were not so big. So Maribor 1941, of course, was a city with some Jewish population. And it's not well known that, because it was very small, there was no synagogue anywhere. But as you may know, we in Maribor are blessed because I have an excellent novel about the time before Second World War in Maribor. It was written by the probably the most important living Slovene author, Drago Jančar. And there is one sentence, which is, of course, the book is brilliant. Everything what is there is very okay, but that sentence is not correct because he said that there was a Jewish quarter. Of course, there was a medieval synagogue. And in 1938, it would have been difficult to find a Jew in the city, which is not true. There were not many, but there were some. Like you probably recognize the Franciscanska Cerkev, the beginning, the most important street in Maribor, at that time Alexander Ulica, then in the war Tegethofstrasse, today Partizanska Street. But you see here the building in which is still is in place. Today there is the oldest supermarket of Maribor, and Turat, the owner of this, was a Jew. So, as I said, there were at least some Jews. But the reason why Eichmann was there and why Seidl was sent here, of course, were not Jews. The reason were, of course, Slovenes. It is also worth to mention that Adolf Hitler himself visited Maribor on April 26, 1941. It is not well known that the occasions like this in 1941 were quite rare. There were just 6 cities which were this year visited by Hitler. And of course, Berlin, 1, Munich, the 2nd, Linz, the city of Hitler's youth. He was born in Braunau am Inn, but there was just birthplace. He was, city of his youth was, of course, Linz. And there was 3 cities more. Maribor on 26th of April, Graz also on 26th of April, and Klagenfurt on 27th of April. And so the reasons, we don't have enough time to explain this, but probably there are some reasons. At least Maribor was a very important city. Usually in Slovenia, we don't, and especially in Maribor, we forgot this, we are not just the 2nd largest city of Slovenia, we are also 2nd largest city of Styria. Styria is today, of course, divided to the Austrian and Slovenian part, but historically, what is the 2nd largest city? Maribor. Anyway, all the buildings here, the bridge here is this. This is the most important person from Styria. This is Dr. Siegfried Überreiter. He was the Gauleiter of Styria. Never ever he was caught. Never ever he was in front of any court, and he died with the other identification in Germany. But all other people here are, of course, very important because it was mentioned, and it was very important. This is Dr. Karl Brandt, the first defendant of the doctor's trial in Nuremberg, and he was a personal physician of Adolf Hitler. So something else, the author of this photo is most probably Heinrich Hoffmann. He was the personal photographer of Adolf Hitler, and there is a short film about that visit, which was made by the Walter Frenz, who was a personal filmer of the Adolf Hitler. Anyway, It is well known that a lot of Slovenians connected that visit with the well-known sentence, which was not said by Adolf Hitler in Maribor, make this country German again, as its other parts of Styria. But it's not well known that even that he was not said this in Maribor, 2 days later, on the meeting like this, Siegfried Überreiter repeated that words. He said, as my Führer some 2 weeks ago said to me, make me this land German again. So if it then calculated from 28th of April, 3 weeks, then we are around 6th of April or something like this. So Hitler actually said this, but not in Maribor. And whatever he means with this was not necessary to repeat here in Maribor because everything was in action. So like arrested of many, many Slovenes, which were arrested because they were potentially dangerous for the Nazis. And that was the reason that that potentially dangerous Slovene and very small number of the Jews and some others must be sent somewhere. And they were sent not just in Serbia, what is usually thinking, but mostly in what was that time independent state of Croatia. That means Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and some, but not majority of them, to Serbia. Anyway, this is the leaving of the first transport. The place is not that official station. The place is some outskirts of the city. This is a custom station. And what is also very important here, we still don't see that building, but there was the Stalag. There is that well-known Russian prisoners of Soviet prisoner of war center after that transport leave. So here we have, of course, German police. Some people are recognized. Maybe some people I'll still remember the last name Schleimer, Vladimir. But most of Mariborans will know who was Maida Schleimer, that's the girl here, later married Japel. She was actually on that photo. She survived with the family, and but that was the kind of transport. And that first transport, this is just one example. This is one of that documents with Seidl's signature, were sent, of course, to Sturmbannführer, not Obersturmbannführer yet, Eichmann. The number, what was the precision, who was in charge of this, and so on and so on. Actually, I think we have at least one photo of Dr. Siegfried in Maribor. That photo, as you see, there are two members, there are two officers of independent state of Croatia. There is one German officer with the rank of Sturmbannführer, higher, but you can see here SD, the Heißdienst. There's somebody in plain clothes, but that person, if you remember the face before, and certainly that this is Dr. Siegfried, and also the rank is correct. So we have photo of Siegfried Seidl from Maribor. So when he finished his work in Slovenia, he was in charge for that first wave of the resettlement. Some 7,000 from Maribor, 12,000 from that time Styria and Gorica were sent, as I said, to Serbia, to Croatia and Bosnia. In the very same number, in October 1941, he was moved to Prague, and he became the very first commandant of Theresienstadt. We have heard about Auschwitz today. Auschwitz, of course, is the most important, the most well-known place of the Holocaust. I think the second most well-known place of the Holocaust is Warsaw Ghetto. And from my point of view, maybe Theresienstadt is the third most important place of the Holocaust. The reason is because it was very untypical. Theresienstadt was actually not a camp. The official name from 1941 to 1940 was a ghetto. And as you maybe know a little bit about the Holocaust, usually there were not direct transports to the extermination camp, but because Jews were collected before into the ghettos, like the most important Warsaw Ghetto, and from there, this is one which just survived because many people actually died in ghettos were sent then to the extermination camp. But that Theresienstadt was unique for many, many, many reasons. And the commander of this, the organizer of this was Dr. Siegfried Seidl. The reason why it was so important was that Jews here have some kind of self-government. And that kind of news was for Nazis quite important to show, okay, there are Jews who are in some places like ghetto or something like this, but they have their own government. And they make we don't know, maybe they have 3 films. That is the first from 1942. Director was one of the Jews who was in that camp. And in one of the stills of that film, we can see, Dr. Siegfried Seidl on the table with that old Kämpfer rank. And of course, he is the head of the Jewish self-government, Jakob Edelstein. As many others, he didn't survive. A lot of people died here in Theresienstadt, but more of them were sent to the transport to the east, and like Dr. Jakob Edelstein died in Auschwitz. A lot of things can be explained about the Theresienstadt, but as I said, as you can see, there was no A and B team, one for the Slovenes and another team for the Jews. Dr. Siegfried Seidl, the very same person, was in charge for the Poles, for the Jews, for the Slovenes. So somebody who was quite important to be, as I said, a commander of the Theresienstadt, was actually just this year also very important in Slovenia, in Maribor. So after that, he was transferred to Bergen-Belsen, and then the biggest action ever in Holocaust, and what is also what were most important charges against Eichmann, Ungaraktion. Hungary, and during the war was not the same like today. There were a lot of places, areas which are part of today other countries like Prekmurje, Međimurje, Prekmurje today part of Slovenia, Međimurje today part of Croatia, or Bačka, which is in today Serbia, Transylvania, part of the which is today in Romania, and so on. So that means that the number of the Jews here was higher than was number of the Jews of Hungary before Second World War. And Hungary was a collaborator of Nazis, but is not so willingly follow the killing of the Jews until 1944. And then on the highest level of his career, Eichmann and his experts like Dr. Siegfried Seidl came to Hungary to arrange transports to Auschwitz. As far as we know, Dr. Siegfried Seidl was in charge for the transports to Debrecen region. I don't know, maybe some other places, but anyway, he was one of the experts who was a lot of experience how to cut a big number of the people and send to some other locations. Like there was like this, you will see no Germans, just Hungarian gendarme, but they were sent here. The same picture we were saying before. This is that big factory, Monowitz IG Farben. This is Auschwitz-Birkenau, the most important place, not Auschwitz-Einau or Stammlager, where the museum is today, but here was the killing center. And especially in 1944, was the direct ramp into the camp. The old ramp was outside. So all the selections look like this. This is one of the 200 photos, which is called Auschwitz album. It is one of the precious things which is kept in Yad Vashem. This is the photo album which was made by the SS in Auschwitz, because they know that never before and never after that will not kill so many people in such a short period of time. So they make a memorial album of the photos, which is one of the most important sources that we have what actually happens there. So this that unfamous selection, left, right, mother with the children, that boy, old lady, they were all sent in one way. It's about 200 meters from there to the crematoria and gas chamber too. So they have maybe some 15, 20 minutes or something like this live before. And this is the most important place in Auschwitz. It's not the gate of Auschwitz-Ein Stammlager, where is the unfamous sign Arbeit macht frei, but this is the gate of the death. This is where the entrance of the train to the immediately neighboring of the crematoria and gas chamber. Not all people were killed. A lot of them were in Auschwitz, but as my predecessor said, even that they survived, Auschwitz was never out of them. They leave Auschwitz physically, but mentally they were still there. One of the most important witness was Primo Levi. He was Italian Jew. He finished his life maybe with suicide, we don't know, but he was one of the most important witness of Auschwitz and things like this. And there is also a question, what can be worse to be Auschwitz? Yes, there are some levels. You've already heard, today was mentioned, Dr. Josef Mengele. Dr. Josef Mengele was the main physician in Birkenau, so majority of the selections in Birkenau were made by him, not all, but majority. But he was also a researcher, and he was also researching twins. And here we have the list of the for laboratoria to take urine from the people who just mentioned. As you can see, there are the same last names and the numbers which were neighboring. So that means they arrived in Auschwitz in the same moment. And because the same last name, this also means that they were the twins. And there are two. They're not written together, but you can see there are the same last names, Kornstein. They were from Maribor. They lived on Main Square, some 200 meters from there, and they were one of the Mengele twins. So after finishing of Ungaration, Dr. Siegfried was moved to Vienna. He was in charge for the Jews in the last month of war, and after the war he managed to escape. But he was caught in the summer of 1945 by the American military police. In 1946, he was handed to the Austrian authorities with because they wanted to have a process against him. But there was this written that if he will be free, then he must be returned to American prison, because also Czechoslovakia wanted him because he was in charge for the crimes in the Theresienstadt. Was no need for this. Volksgericht was not official, normal court. Was made by the three people who are not actually lawyers and two lawyers, but it was in charge for the at least some processes against the Austrians who make crimes. 30 of them were sentenced to death, and one of these was actually Dr. Siegfried Seidl. What is bizarre is that the gallows on which the 30 were hanged, the dates of their deaths of the executioners. And here is the Dr. Siegfried Seidl's date, February the 4th, 1947, 6:02 in the morning. And again, a little bit Austrian story. After his death, his widow wanted to have a pension, even that he was a war criminal. And after years of the process, she got it. So widow of Dr. Siegfried Seidl, on the end, have pension. Thank you for your attention. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.